The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Welcome to Autism Live at a very special time. We're here with you live on a Wednesday afternoon, which we don't normally do, but you know what? It's so good we might do it more often. I gotta tell you, I'm very excited because here with us live in the studio, we have Alex Lehman. He is the director and the editor and the person who masterminded a new documentary that is out that you guys have more ways to see as of this month than ever before. We've talked about this a little bit on the show. Asperger's Are Us. Amazing. Welcome to Autism Live.
Thank you for having me here.
I'm thrilled that you're here and I'm thrilled that we're able to talk about this. Our audience who watches us on a regular basis, we talked about this a couple of months ago.
Oh, wow.
The comedians were 4 guys on the spectrum that are this comedy troupe, and they were here in Los Angeles and did a show.
Yes.
I got to go.
Yes.
I met you briefly there, but my other half that was with me, Alex Plank, was there, and I shared on the show that it was like going to something with Elvis. He was so popular at this event. Alex was. That was fun for me in one respect, but we talked about the show and how amazing these 4 comedians are, and how I don't even have the words to say how fascinating it was and how hilariously funny, and in the moment how much joy there was at this amazing tour de force performance that they did.
They're fantastic. They're so funny, and they're not afraid to be themselves, and that's something. I think they've mastered that skill far better than I have.
Quite honestly, right?
They own it. They just love who they are, and their sense of humor and their personality is take it or leave it. And as far as I can tell, that's just specific to them. Like, forget any labels. Like, that's just who they're performers. Like, they know who they are.
They're talented. They're hilarious. They're funny. It's so hard to divorce things from, there's the title of the group, Asperger's Are Us. It really doesn't get said in the performance. That's nothing to do with that, but the humor is so uniquely fresh and fabulous that if you understand what Asperger's is, there's an underlying element that's particularly fun and exciting, but it's not about that. It's a really great performance and really funny and hilarious. So I was thrilled to be able to see that, and we knew that documentary had recently come out, and that it was coming to be available in more ways. Recently it became available to get it on iTunes, correct?
Sure. It actually wasn't out. We played it a couple of film festivals, but we didn't release it until a week ago, or less than a week ago. Friday in New York, we had our first theatrical screening, and then we released on iTunes and Amazon yesterday.
Okay.
So
there you go, you guys. Now, I got to watch it last night and thought that it was amazing and wonderful and beautiful.
Thank you.
And funny and emotional. I mean, I'm going to say that it was very emotional for me to watch it. And really wonderful. It was so, because I sat and watched it with my husband, who did not get to come to the comedy performance with me. And I thought that was interesting, and I had a lot of questions for him afterwards about, okay, so I know this from having seen them live. What's from your perspective? What are you doing? And it was fascinating. So I want to say 2 things. People need to see the film, and then you need to go and see them live.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, it's 2 different things for sure.
2 entirely different things. It's almost like 2 different planets, but you must do both. I'm sorry, you must. It's on your to-do list. Start checking it off. So let's talk a little bit about this. So tell us a little bit about you, because was this your first time film directing?
This is my first film directing, yeah, and I've got a pretty decent career as a cinematographer. I've worked on other people's films, documentaries, horror movies, everything. And I wanted to make my own movie, and I also wanted to make something positive.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was part of a lot of horror movies for a while.
Okay.
Pay the bills, you get a little experience.
Right.
But I wanted to put something out that was positive. And so I was writing some scripts. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was doing a little research, and I came across an article on the guys. And I realized that their story was far more intriguing than anything I was writing. I was fascinated by them. I had a very limited knowledge of autism, and so when I saw that there were these comedians, the sketch comedy troupe, composed of all members of the spectrum, it surprised me. It defied my preconceptions. So I figured I'd like to learn more about them and tell a story about learning about them.
Yeah.
Because what's really important to me in the filmmaking that I've in which I've now found success is, instead of having some answers and just wanting to throw my answers at someone and say, like, this is what you should be thinking, cramming a documentary just down people's throats. My ideology is, let's ask some questions and just discover together. So I think that probably, having watched the doc, you notice it's a very personal experience. It's an intimate experience where we're getting to know about the guys. The audience is getting to know and experience these moments at the same time that I was when I was holding a camera and just filming these guys.
Yeah, there's an honesty to it and it does leave you with a lot of questions, and I think that everybody's experience of the film is probably vastly different depending on what you walked in with.
Sure.
And how that shifts and changes as a result. So powerful, we're going to say that. And a lot of our audience is parents. And so parents are going to look at it in a very specific way. And I have to be honest that one of the things that these guys have been doing that's been kicking my keister is making me look at my role as a parent. Yeah. And it was that night of the show. Oh man, I had to take several steps back and go, I got to look at this. I have a 13-year-old son who's on the spectrum, and I had to step back and go, man, I got to question myself a little bit here, there, and everywhere, which Alex Plank frequently makes me do as well. Yeah. And he and I had an amazing conversation as we drove away from the venue that night. So lots of things that have stuck with me, and now the film has added a whole other layer to that for me, about looking at from a parent's point of view. But I really think that every single person, whether you're a parent, and we have a lot of people who watch this show who are individuals who are on the autism spectrum, and I think their perspective of the film would be vastly different, but all positive. We have to say that, all of it positive. So, okay, so you heard about this group, and it intrigued you. How did you get from there to directing a documentary and having the Duplass brothers executive produce this? These are the biggest, hottest names in the industry in this moment in time.
Sure. And
you got them to sign on to a project. I think the entire autism community wants to cheer you and go, nicely done.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, thank you. That's, I can't say that I had this grand master plan, and it wasn't like 99 steps, and I was just knew exactly where I was going to go in every direction. Again, I just was more following my gut when I was making the film. I made it on my credit card, and I made it in my free time while I was still doing my regular job and paying the bills. So I took my time with it, but when I was finally at a good place with the film and really proud of it, I knew that I wanted to reach out to Mark about it. Mark Duplass was an actor on this TV series called The League. I was a cameraman on it, and I'd been kind of dropping hints for like a year that I'd been working on this thing on the side. And the joke he makes, but it is true, is he was kind of feeling a lot of pressure, like, oh man, I got to watch this guy's documentary now, and it's probably not going to be good because a lot of people hand me stuff and they're proud of it, but it's not all going to be up to what I want to do. So there was a little bit of discomfort there, but when you really believe in something,
Yeah.
when you really, really believe in it, then you've got to pull out all the stops, and you go to your heroes and say, I've been bleeding for this, I've been sweating for this, and this is the one where I'm willing to put my neck out there, and if I embarrass myself, I do, but I don't think I'm going to.
Right.
That being said, I was surprised and very excited when Mark watched it and immediately called me back and said, I want to be a part of this. This is fantastic. He and his brother helped me shape it a little bit more, and they helped me get it out there, really, because once their names were on it. And I'll tell you, the most important thing, I felt kind of safe making this documentary on my credit card, knowing I know there's a community that will probably enjoy this film. And I didn't know much about the community when I first got involved in it, but I think that there are people that want to hear the story. But once I knew that I had not just a story that fed into some interest, but I realized this is a good documentary, period. It's a good story. There's father-son relationships. There's it's a coming-of-age story more than it is a documentary about autism. I realized I think I can get this into the mainstream. And to get this movie into the mainstream is great, not just for me as a filmmaker, it's great for the community, because for as many people as possible can watch this movie now and open their minds a little bit and get rid of some labels and stereotypes. It's exciting that lots of people are going to see this.
Absolutely. And there are so many levels to it. Like we could pick it apart and analyze all the different levels and all the different ways, and it's still, what a lot of times I say, you watch something and it stays with you. Yeah. And it's like an onion, and you peel another layer off, and then a day later somebody says something, and you go, oh, and it peels another layer off, and it stays with you. That's really what this is. It's a rich onion, and you have to, I think. This is certainly my experience of it, is that you got to meet yourself somewhere in there too, and go, where am I in this? And it really, they make me, question where I'm coming from as a parent, because there are moments with the parents, and it's so honest. Everybody is so honest. I understand that now, getting more time spending with you, because you got a very soothing presence about you.
Oh, thank you.
And I can see where they all sort of just, let themselves be with you there with a camera.
Yeah.
Because that's always, it's hard. Sometimes in a documentary you imagine, okay, but wait a minute, there was a whole crew there, and there was people, but you can see it, that they clearly got comfortable.
Yeah, that was really important for me. There was no crew. It was me.
You.
I would fly out whenever I was on a hiatus week. I'd wrap up production and get on a flight, usually a red eye, and just I'd get to wherever they were rehearsing that day, and I had one microphone. I would just put the lav on whoever I thought maybe would be the most interesting for the day.
Wow.
And it was me and a camera, and I would just follow them around. I mean, there were days where I just wasn't eating food. I would forget to do everything, but it was such an adrenaline rush because I disappeared. Yeah. They really just, as much as they trusted me, we became friends. They really allowed me to sit in on their life in a way that I was not affecting it, and I was really going with the flow.
But you are friends with them now?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I can't imagine it being anything but that.
I think I'm their biggest fan, to be
well,
honest.
I'm sure that they have a lot of fans now. I think one of the hardest things about the movie for me was watching the struggle that they were having to find a place to rehearse, to watch the struggle, to get, to the point where they were at. Because for anybody who doesn't know, and oh, look at there, you guys all are. The film follows the process leading up to what is their last show, which clearly didn't end up being their last show. But
we call it the farewell show. But it seemed like it could have been the last show at the time. I'm glad they're still doing it.
I'm really glad that they're still doing it. But and ultimately it culminates, and we get to see little snippets. We really don't get to see the last show. And that I was a little irked about, because I had built it up for my husband and was like, wait till you see. But I kind of love that you didn't also. But you get to see snippets, but you get to see the struggle and the joy that comes through the struggle. You get to see all of that. But I already knew that it wasn't the last show because I'd seen them perform, and I saw them perform in front of a packed house of people who loved every breath they took.
It was a great show.
Where, people were losing their minds. We were all laughing hysterically, standing ovation kind of thing. And so there were parts of it that were painful for me to watch them, because in that moment they didn't know that was going to happen. I did want to know, had they had the kind of performance that I saw in LA with that many people loving on them, had they had those kinds of show before you filmed with them?
I don't think to the size or the extent of the LA show, which was the final show. They did an 18-show tour this summer. So they had a couple this summer where they started very strongly in Boston, and they had some really, really strong and successful shows. They also had a couple that, not as many people showed up at, or maybe they were a little tired that day. And that's live shows. That's not comedy. Yeah, that's music. That's anything. That's touring. That's it was their first tour. But as far as this documentary specifically, I think I don't think it was the biggest crowd they'd ever gotten. The
LA show.
The show, the Boston show in the documentary.
Oh, I see. Yes.
But it was a pretty receptive crowd. It was one of their best shows, if not their best. But that's those ups and downs and those struggles, come with being an artist, trying to develop and constantly recreate yourself. So
it's the real deal. Yeah. We have the trailer, and so we should take a pause and show the trailer so everybody can see exactly what it is that we're talking about. Here is the trailer for Asperger's Are Us.
It's always fun, because whenever someone asks, I run away in fear.
We're Asperger's Are Us. It's true, we're the first comedy troupe composed of people on the autism spectrum.
So if we're not funny, blame it on Ethan's disability. You should come to what might be our last ever show.
We'll be able to do material that we've worked on but haven't performed yet, and also it'll be really, really silly.
We want to sell out Earth.
This is definitely the most challenging show we've had.
We want aliens to come to the show and be turned away because it's full.
There's parts that are screwed up, there's parts the audience doesn't get.
But we're realistic, so if the aliens get in, that's okay too.
It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be...
Start thinking this way.
I was born this way.
I've been more stressed than I have been in the past.
We're hypersensitive because something's irritating us from the inside.
I'm saying that I feel upset.
All of this stuff that's hard, that's difficult for us, this is what we get for starting Asperger's Are Us.
I asked. I'm not talking about you. I want you guys to leave. I just want it to be done now.
It's a lonely, lonely world. This is my diagnosis, the actual time I got diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and I skipped home because I felt freer than I ever had. It explained everything that had ever happened to me that didn't make sense.
When you have Asperger's, you can do things that are really, really great. Not in spite of having autism, but through it.
Doing really good, dude. I'm really happy that we're in this troupe together.
Me too.
And the rabbi interrupts and says, sorry to cut you off.
These guys are my best friends. I don't really have anything bad to say.
This gazebo has the stupidest sign, because what the hell else are you gonna do in a gazebo? I'm a rebel without a cause, baby.
Hey, see, I told you, you have to see this. It's on your to-do list. So right now you can get it on iTunes and you can get it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes.
as of today, you have the ability to do that. So you need to do that. There are so many things that are so poignant and so funny as we were watching the trailer, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But I mentioned that one of the things that these four gentlemen have done is, made me think of that I'm an autism parent and that sometimes that is not helpful. And I think, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about this, is that it's really, you know, and Alex Plank helps me to see this sometimes too, that autism parents look at individuals who are on the spectrum in a different way. And it's not always helpful to them. But when and even that night, I saw myself behave this way, is that you know, we get around, they were rock stars on the night of the performance.
Yeah.
You know, I saw their senses of humor. I saw that. I did not see challenges. I did not see anything that was causing. Afterwards, they did the Q&A, and some of the things that got discussed about how it was for them finding other jobs. You know, of course, I'm starting to see some of the challenges then, but in terms of, they are so capable. They are so capable. They're brilliant. And their ability, their self-awareness and their ability to perspective take about how they perceive us perceiving them, super intelligent and hilarious. And to be able to comment on that, I mean, come on, that is stunning. And as an autism parent, you sit there and you soak it up and are filled with hope. Like, oh my gosh, this, you know, these are 4 distinctly different people on the spectrum in different places. And look at how amazing they are. And you get, but we do tend to look at them and be like looking at everything like, I'm not doing that to you right now, but and it's horrible. And I've now had to stop and think about, that is not a good way to be, and I have to stop it. But it's hard.
It's challenging, yeah. I mean, labels can be disabling, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times when people think about the stereotypes, they immediately gravitate towards the challenges, which makes sense, because listen, a lot of it comes from us all having good hearts and actually feeling compassion. So I don't think you or anyone should feel bad about that being your first reaction. Now, I know that the guys and a lot of people don't want to be looked at as disabled.
Don't.
And so as soon as you label them like it's an uphill battle for them. So I sympathize for that, but I see where it's coming from, and it's not people being mean or bullies. So that's
I'm not intending it, but for instance, and I'm gonna mess up the comic who has the curly hair. Is that Jack?
Yeah.
And so I went up to Jack after the performance. I got a chance to introduce myself to each one of them, and I went up to Jack after the performance, and I said, you know, I loved the performance. I just thought you were amazing. I think you're so funny. He said some things that just made me howl. And I said, you know, you really remind me of my son.
Cool.
And he looked at me and he said, oh, so I remind you of a child? And of course, I laughed, but I thought, you know, like, what a really ridiculous thing for me to say. I know where I was coming from, but he clearly cued me into the fact that I really wasn't thinking about how I was saying that, right?
A little bit, but he's also a comedian. He'll take, and Jack especially, his sense of humor is he loves
sharp.
He loves to derail you. So as soon as you've got a train of thought, he loves to. But my favorite joke of his happens in Q&As. Because something that also we didn't get to show in the documentary because there was no Q&A, but what they've done, what they do at all their other shows, what they did on tour is they'll do a Q&A for the parents at the end.
Yes.
So all their comedy material is unrelated to autism, other than it is their self-expression, and a lot of their sense of humor is relatable. But the Q&As is when they allow parents, anybody, to ask questions about them. As comedians or as autistic, anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, always there's going to be a couple people in the audience that, you know, mom will raise their hand and say, my son was recently diagnosed. And he immediately interrupts them always and says, congratulations. And that's fantastic. And that's exactly how we need to be able to look at this is, like, I understand you're about to ask a question about how, you know, how can I teach my son some of the skills that you've, you know, or what school, or
how can I get my child to be like you?
Exactly.
It's what we all want to ask.
But the first thing he says is, let's celebrate that for a second, because you know, I don't see it as a negative.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's his derailing humor.
And it's fabulous.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's absolutely fabulous. And I appreciate it, but I tell you, it's been making me look at how I ask questions and what I do, and that's good. That needs to happen. Okay, so there was a question that I wrote before I saw the film and before you said what you said when we first started talking. I said I wanted to know what you wanted the takeaway from the film to be.
Sure.
But I almost feel like I don't want to ask it now, but I need to know, based on what you said before, what do you want the takeaway from the film to be?
Sure. I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna answer it in 2 ways.
Okay.
As a friend to the guys, I want the takeaway to be they're very funny. I want to see more of their comedy. I want to book them, or I want to go to a show of theirs, or I want to look them up online and watch their sketches, because I really do genuinely want them to succeed as a comedy troupe. Mm-hmm. My other answer is, I want people to see the positives in who these guys are and to get to know them as individuals, and only at the very end get the lesson that they are one of millions and no two are alike. The last line, spoiler alert, not really. The last line in the documentary is a quote. It's been attributed to Stephen Shore pretty often, but it's if you've met, I'm sure you guys have said this quote a million times on the show, but if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. That is definitely a huge takeaway that I wanted the film. That was meant for the other audience, the one that we're now reaching.
Yeah.
I knew that, and in fact, that's part of the reason why it's at the end of the movie. I made a movie first, trying to tell a story, and then when I realized I think this is good enough and it's going to be reaching a lot of people that, like myself, didn't know much about autism before this. Yeah. The last thing I want to leave them with is, but these are just 4 guys.
Yeah.
Remember that. Because
and 4 very funny guys.
4 very funny guys, and they've been able to overcome some challenges that, I understand that not everybody's going to be, and they've got some different struggles than other people will. And I wanted to make sure that nobody left this movie thinking, oh, okay, so that's autism, and like, all they got to do is make jokes and it's going to be fun. I know so many wonderful families and people now. I know Carly Fleischman. Yeah. So Carly.
Has she gotten to see the film?
I don't know if she's seen it yet, but Carly Fleischman's cousin is Sid Fleischman, who's a producer for Mark Duplass. That all happened after the fact. Okay. But yeah, I mean, funny story. Yeah, Sid and Mark and Jay, they all loved the film and brought me in. But while I was, it was this summer, Sid asked me if I could film Carly and who's the guy from Magic Mike and all that stuff.
Oh, were you the one who filmed that interview?
Yeah.
We loved
I filmed and
that
directed
interview.
that interview. Oh my gosh, yeah, no, I was so excited.
Oh.
She said, hey, do you want to do this?
It was hilarious.
It was such a blast, and
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum, yeah.
Yes.
So I was out there filming Carly and Channing, and that's something that I know, and I want to make sure as many people as possible know. Like, there's a lot going on with autism.
Yes.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not, and I'm not a spokesperson, and I'm certainly not trying to make any blanket statements. I was trying to tell a coming of age story of these 4 guys who are comedians and friends and have, different relationships with their parents. And so I just want to say, like, this is a slice, and I think that there's a lot of inspiration you can get from this, but I'm not trying to make any blanket statements.
Love it. Well, I think Carly should interview the 4 guys.
That would be fantastic.
Wouldn't that?
Yeah, I'll tell you. What? I'm gonna reach out. That's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I mean that's absolutely wonderful.
I love that. That's a great idea.
And I mentioned to you that Alex Plank called me last night when he saw that you were going to be on today. Sure. And Alex, in the course of our conversation, suggested to me that he said, well, Shannon, are you going to interview the 4 guys? And I said, I want to.
They're so much fun.
I want to, but that's up to them. And Alex said to me, he goes, well, you should let me come on your show and you should let me interview them. And I said, Alex, I'm good with that. Yeah. So that's our open invitation for you to take back that, we're happy to have Alex interview them via Skype. They can, or if they're here in LA, but they can do it via Skype. And,
well, they can do it via Skype. We can arrange that
all
real
right.
quickly.
Well, okay. We're live. You promised that. I know it depends on their schedule.
No.
But,
It'll be fun. They would love to.
Well, we would love that, and I would get a big kick out of that, and Alex would be very into it.
When I do press or Q&As after screenings, if I can get any of the guys there, I shut up. They're comedians. I'm not a comedian.
Yeah,
They're so much more interesting to talk about the movie, or just to have. So, yeah.
You know, honestly, the improv capabilities that the four of them have. I mean, their sketch stuff is hilarious, but their improv is so on point. The wit is so razor quick that you have to run to keep up. And you know, it's when I mean, I've seen a lot of comedy in my life, and it's how many months ago, and there are still specific punchlines that I remember because they're that good and had us howling. So amazing! You have to see it. I already told you have to, and I meant it. Okay, so you've already been working on other projects.
Yep.
So what else do we need to look at? Because clearly we love you. I had no idea that you were the one that did the Carly video, which we talked about on the show. I didn't know that we needed to attribute it to you. It was hilarious.
Oh, no.
I think I said it was better than butter pecan ice cream. I said it was amazing.
Well, I just went in and you know, did the camera and lighting work, but it was actually Carly's dad is he works in advertising, so
we've had Carly's dad on the show before. Yeah,
cool.
So,
yeah, no, they're wonderful. But I just felt lucky to be a part of it, to be honest.
Well, it was hilarious.
Cool experience.
It was so fun and
So
uplifting,
funny. She's
and
great.
better than any. You know, just she's amazing.
I love comedy. It just doesn't.
And you cannot watch it and not laugh yourself sideways.
Absolutely.
You can't. But anyway, so back to you. What's next for you? What you been working on?
Well, I filmed it this year. This movie starring Mark Duplass and Sarah Paulson. It's called Blue Jay. It's a romantic
Love both
drama.
of them.
Yeah, it's a wonderful film. You know, funny enough, I made it after Asperger's Rest, but we released it before. So that came out about a month. They came out in September. It's on iTunes now.
Okay.
And they're fantastic in it. And it was a real gift to be able to, you know, direct Mark and Sarah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm working on some other stuff with Mark, and, you know, I think we've got maybe some other stuff in the works with the troupe, so we can't announce anything yet,
Okay.
but we're looking long term with them. I think there's
but you're in the director chair now, firmly, and this is it, right?
And I have Asperger's Rest to thank for it. Like,
Wow.
I thank those guys for it, because they gave me the opportunity. I mean, listen, for anyone, you know, to allow you to make a documentary about them, it's very brave, right? Anyone, if you
I agree.
You know, for anyone to allow you that peek behind the curtain and to ask questions and to see that you're most vulnerable, you're very lucky in a way, because that means somebody's very invested in who you are as a person. And, you know, I would say we all kind of miss that contact, you know, life moving faster than ever before, digital age. There's so much lack of personal connection that I think we all kind of secretly wish that a documentary can be made about us. But as soon as those more vulnerable parts are, you know, explored, it's also really scary, because you're being faced with not only allowing someone to see that version of yourself, but actually having to address it as well. So I find those guys incredibly brave as human beings to you know, do that. And if they weren't performers, you know, maybe they wouldn't have allowed me to do it. But they're so good at you know, just comedy. And sometimes when things are a little uncomfortable, they make a joke and they diffuse it. And I've worked with comedians. I've worked on Last Comic Standing. Worked on The League. To me, like, these guys they remind me of all the other comedians I've worked with. I'm like, yeah, they're comedians. They're struggling, and they've got some, you know, issues sometimes with, you know, whether or not they're funny or whether or not, you know, the material's working.
And it's frustrating sometimes they bump heads. I thought
sure.
you showed that particularly well in the film, to see, you know, that process of how you compromise in comedy, which, whew, that's battle.
It is, but that's who, you know, that's who any sketch group or any comedian, they're gonna have those same struggles. So I immediately recognized when I was working with them, I immediately recognized, like, oh yeah, they're performers and they're comedians, and I understand the patterns of how most comedians think when I'm working with them creatively. And so I always looked at them as comics first, which was great. But the fact that they allowed me, you know, a look into their life and their process, I'll always be thankful for it, because it allowed me to tell a story that, you know, I felt connected to, and it's allowed me to make some more movies. And that's, you know, the thing I have in common with the troupe right now is we're both following our passions, where our careers are just kind of finally, you know, taken off, and we share the same work ethic, and we also share the same integrity, where, you know, I think there's a lot of honesty in our material.
Amazing. And so now you've directed a full-length documentary and a full-length feature,
Yep.
and so which do you prefer?
Documentaries take a lot more time. I mean, I started shooting the documentary in 2013.
Wow.
And yeah, like I said, it was, you know, there were no creature comforts about it whatsoever. It was exhilarating, but exhausting.
Did you keep cameras on them when they were out on tour this last summer? Did you, or can you not tell me that? You may or may not have. Rumor has it that you might have.
There might have been a couple of us on tour with them.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. And now, I'll let you finish answering the question. So which you prefer? It's more work to do documentary, but is there a reward that isn't in the other, or what are you going to do next? Of the two, which two are you going to pick?
Probably narrative.
Okay.
But by the way, the movie I directed, Blue Jay, had very much a documentary feel. It was all improv.
Interesting.
So we had an
All
outline,
improv. Wow.
but yeah, Sarah and Mark improv'd, and we shot chronologically. So I used my documentary background for that. So I don't know, maybe I'll follow a Warner Herzog type path, where I kind of go in between the two, and then sometimes do something right in the middle, and nobody knows if it's real or not. Not comparing myself to the great Warner Herzog,
Go ahead.
but you know, as far as maybe bouncing back and forth, I just chase honest stories, to be honest. Like, it's what I resonate with, is just the most honest feelings and character study. I'm not really into plot-driven stuff as much as I am.
So refreshing.
Yeah.
You're not looking to blow anything up?
I'm not, you know, I mean, I guess if the character study was a demolition expert,
right,
then technically we'd be filming some explosion scenes. But otherwise, no, I just, you know, I'm an introspective guy, and I've, you know, this conversation, if you and I were getting a coffee, we'd be having the same conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not on right now. That's
Right.
what's really nice. I've done a lot of interviews where I feel on. This is very nice and casual. I just like just listening to people, and just also just kind of gushing and not filtering myself.
We like that too. So I guess in coming close to the end here, I'm wondering, you know, since you started this process without a whole lot of knowledge about autism and being on the autism spectrum, what do you think you learned in this process that might help other people?
Wow. Well, I mean, you know, that Stephen Shore quote is definitely one thing, but I've learned that my brain is not nearly as quick as I thought it was.
Right?
As soon as you hang out with some real fast thinkers, you realize I'm riding a bike in a motorcycle race.
Right.
Which is fine, but you know, I'm a
It's
little jealous
humbling
of them.
sometimes.
Oh my gosh, I'm straight up jealous
Yeah.
of how fast they think.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd like to say that I finally learned to look at people, you know, and beyond their labels, and just give them a shot. I think I mostly felt that way anyways, probably even more so now. And I'm sure that there's still steps I need to make in that direction, but I always try to, you know, meet the person first, and then attribute, you know, their qualities and personality to the label I give them, instead of, you know, certain words that get thrown around that, you know, are speaking of millions of people. They're just individual. I think individualism is becoming a more and more important thing. That, and I realize that every time I try to write something that I haven't, you know, that I'm not personally resonating with, or that I don't know enough about, it's never that good. but as soon as I start asking some questions, even if I'm writing a fictional script, as soon as I start asking questions, it's not a message-driven piece anymore. It's an exploratory piece, and those tend to be a lot more honest and I think palatable, and I get to bring people in on a journey. So I would say, finally got to the answer for you, and the answer is ask more questions.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I have to say that in both seeing Asperger's or Us perform live and seeing the movie, that it's like almost like two different people. Like, on the one hand, as just a person enjoying and seeing how amazing another person's journey was so uplifting and informative, right? But then, because I always come at things from, the place that I'm at, which is an autism parent, the thing that I've really walked away with this is that what I'm working on right now is not having to quantify everything.
Yeah.
That because it's interesting, I was talking about like looking at them to see what they could do. I don't think that I look at them to see where is the disability. I look to see how much ability do you have, because that fills my hope tanks. And that I need to be much more willing to let that go aside and just see the person and not try to see and compare and constantly being like, okay, gosh, can my child do that?
Right.
And is that something we need to work on? And I owe that not only to the individuals, but that I really owe it to my son.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is, but it's, are you a parent?
I'm not, but I would love to be sometime.
It's a trippy thing.
Yeah, I see it.
Because
through my friends,
learning how to let go,
Sure.
And let them be is a trippy, fabulous thing in life.
I wonder if a good reminder would be that you and I are also constantly growing and trying to. So instead of like thinking, well, I gotta get my kid to a certain, it's like, wait a minute, there is no certain point because I'm still growing. I'm still improving. So it's not, like you said, it's not quantifying. It's just kind of being aware of the fact that like we're all, there's always a process for all of us, and that growth doesn't need to be quantified.
It's humbling.
Yeah, but then we're all in the same battle.
Exciting to be there to watch everybody's journey.
Yeah,
everybody's journey.
And we get to celebrate each other's growth.
Yes,
which is fun.
Absolutely. So here's this amazing film, Asperger's or Us. You can get it on Amazon and you can get it on iTunes. Yep. And we're telling you, it's not a choice. It's something that you must do. You're not going to be sorry. Hour and 35 minutes-ish?
No, not even. Hour 22.
Hour 22.
Nice, quick movie.
So,
fun.
But really amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you've seen the other documentary film that, as if there's only 2 this year. There's many, but we had on the director of the film, Off the Rails. Have you seen this film?
I can't wait to see this film. I didn't know it was out yet. Alex is the one who told me about it.
Oh.
And so there's all these recreations of
yes.
just getting on these trains.
Yes.
I'm excited to see it.
But the story is amazing. But there is a moment, there are many moments in the film where one of the comedians is drawn to trains and likes trains and is, and talks about his sometimes perseveration with the trains. And then we get to see what he's doing with his life at the end of the film. And I got to be honest with you that I looked at him and thought, okay, what is so different from his story and the other gentleman who's featured in Off the Rails, who cannot let go of his perseveration, is that he has a group of people around him who are helping him to find his humor and to find his way so that he can follow this dream of being interested in the Metrolink in a positive way, where the real life person in Off the Rails didn't have that. And how we all have a responsibility to be there and be a net for people so that they can find a healthy way in which to actively pursue their dreams, because that's what it is. People can call it perseveration. That's just another word for dream that I won't let go of.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And what a difference to compare. Even that aspect of these two movies really was blowing my mind last night. Like how wrong things can go if we don't feed those passions.
Yeah, well, we all need a little guidance when we're young. Yeah.
But you have been a part of that for
Thank you.
all of these young men and given them an opportunity to have their voice be heard by more people, and that's a really worthwhile thing. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Watch the film and then then like them on Facebook so that you can find out information about when they're going to be playing near you, because I'm sure that they're going to be touring again very soon, and you will want to go see them. Because they're amazing, and you're amazing, and thank you so much for being with us.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
I had a really good time. All right, you guys, this has been our very special, I think we went a whole hour, which I didn't intend to keep you a whole hour. But make sure that you're with us tomorrow. We've got an amazing show for you tomorrow. We're starting out with special education attorney Bonnie Yates, first thing in the morning. We're not even doing jargon of the day. And then we're going to take a trip around the world with Dina Kimmel for We Rock Around the World. It's going to be great. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.